Hey guys, it's Mark from Ace Tutors, and in this video, I'm going to explain two sample z-tests for proportions. This is going to look very similar to my other videos in this hypothesis testing series, so let's jump right into it. As a reminder, the goal of hypothesis testing is to make a certain conclusion about a large population by using data from a smaller sample. Two sample z-tests are just one way to do that when you have a certain population and certain data. So when would you use two sample z-tests for proportions? Well, you would use this type of hypothesis test whenever two things are true. First, you need to have two independent, distinct groups or populations you're pulling data from. And second, your data has to be in the form of a proportion, as opposed to a mean or another measure. Now, to solve these types of problems, we're going to use the same process we follow for all hypothesis test problems, the 5 C's, which we first discussed in my video covering the idea of hypothesis testing in general. We are first going to create our hypotheses for our particular problem, then we will check certain necessary conditions are true in order to use this two sample z-test method. Next, we will calculate our test statistic and p-value, compare these to our critical value and alpha value, and finally conclude based on our findings. Alright, let's dive into each of these with our first example. Say your friend is convinced studying doesn't really help you pass tests. You believe it does, so to prove them wrong, you take two simple random samples of students taking your statistics course at your college. One for students who have studied more than 4 hours, and one for students who have studied less than 4 hours for their final exam. Of the 120 students who studied more than 4 hours, 103 of them passed their final. Of the 80 students who studied less than 4 hours, 57 of them passed. At an alpha value of 0.05, test your claim. Okay, first, following our 5 steps, we need to create our null and alternative hypotheses. As always, I like to start with our alternative hypothesis. Our alternative hypothesis, H sub A, is whatever we're testing about the populations. Just like creating our hypotheses for the one sample tests, this will come in one of 3 forms. But instead of comparing your population parameter to some number or value, we're going to be comparing the difference between our two different population parameters to 0 specifically. This is because we're trying to see if our two parameters are different from one another. If we think the proportion for our first population, P1, is larger than the proportion for our second population, P2, then P1 minus P2 would be greater than 0. If we think P2 is larger than P1, then P1 minus P2 would be less than 0. If we just think P1 and P2 are different, then P1 minus P2 would just be not equal to 0. And as a heads up, you might see the hypotheses also written with the parameters on different sides of the inequality. It's ultimately the same thing as you're just adding P2 to both sides to get something like P1 is less than, greater than, or not equal to P2. But I like to use the first method because I think it makes it a little more clear that we're testing the difference in the two parameters. And it makes it a little more clear when we draw our distribution, but it ultimately doesn't matter which way you do it. For our problem, we are testing to see whether studying for more than 4 hours significantly increases your chances of passing the final exam. So we can say our alternative hypothesis is that the proportion of students who study more than 4 hours and pass their final, P underscore greater than 4, minus the proportion of students who study less than 4 hours and pass their final, P underscore less than 4, is greater than 0. Then our null hypothesis is always just the opposite of this, which makes our null hypothesis H sub O, P underscore greater than 4 minus P underscore less than 4 is less than or equal to 0. Alright, next, as always, let's start drawing a picture of the distribution matching our problem to help us visualize it. Since we're doing a z-test, we're going to use the normal distribution, so let's draw that. We next want to draw this distribution in the context of our problem. To do that, we want to draw our distribution assuming the proposed difference in the population proportions from the problem is correct. The assumed difference in the proportions P1 minus P2 is 0. So we're going to center our distribution at this value. Alright, with that added to our distribution, let's set that aside for now and we will return to it later. Now that we have our hypotheses in drawing, we next need to check certain conditions. For two sample z-tests for proportions, there are 3 different conditions that need to be satisfied in order for us to be able to use this test type. Essentially, we're trying to make sure that the data we collected is a good representation of the overall populations. The first condition we need to meet is that the data we collect is from simple random samples of the populations to ensure we picked our data points randomly. The second is that n times p and n times 1 minus p are both greater than or equal to 10 for both populations. This means n1 times p1, n1 times 1 minus p1, n2 times p2, and n2 times 1 minus p2 all have to be greater than or equal to 10. You might also see that these values need to be greater than or equal to 5 instead sometimes. It's ultimately just a rule of thumb in order to ensure that we can use a normal distribution to approximate our sampling distribution, so don't be alarmed if you're used to seeing it that way. And lastly, the third condition we need to meet is that the sample sizes are less than 10% of the entire populations to ensure that the samples are independent from one another. Going through these for our problem, the question states that you take simple random samples, so that checks off the first condition. Next, the sample size of students who studied more than 4 hours is 120, and the corresponding proportion is 103 divided by 120. The sample size of students who studied less than 4 hours is 80, and the corresponding proportion is 57 divided by 80. Doing the math on each of these, we find that each of them are greater than 10, so that checks off the second condition. Lastly, let's assume there are many more than 1,200 and 800 students taking your statistics class who have studied more than 4 hours and less than 4 hours respectively, so that the sample sizes are much less than 10% of the population sizes, and that checks off our third condition. Okay, now that our conditions are met, we can move on with the problem and calculate the test statistic and p-value for our samples. As a reminder, the test statistic is just the standardized value associated with our sample data, in our case the difference between our sample proportions, and the p-value represents the probability of getting that difference in our sample proportion if the true difference is indeed 0. Since this is a 2-sample z-test and we're using a normal distribution, our test statistic is a z-statistic. The formula for z for 2-sample z-tests for proportions is z equals p1 hat minus p2 hat divided by the square root of pc hat minus 1 minus pc hat times 1 divided by n1 plus 1 divided by n2, where p1 hat is our sample proportion of students that studied more than 4 hours, p2 hat is our sample proportion of students that studied less than 4 hours, n1 is the sample size of students studying more than 4 hours, n2 is the sample size for students studying less than 4 hours, and pc hat is the proportion of students who passed the final exam combined together across both the samples. This PC value is calculated by taking the number of students who passed their test that studied more than 4 hours, x1, added to the number of students who passed that studied less than 4 hours, x2, divided by the total number of students who studied more than 4 hours, n1, plus the total number of students who studied less than 4 hours, n2. This ultimately gets you the total number of students in your sample who passed, which is 160 divided by 200, or 0.80. P1 hat is then just 103 divided by 120, or 0.8583. P2 hat is 57 divided by 80, or 0.7125. N1 is 120 students, and N2 is 80 students. Plugging this into a calculator, we get that z equals about 2.53. Now that we have all of this calculated, let's add all of this to our distribution. As I mentioned, our normal distribution is centered at the assumed difference in proportions of 0. However, when we collected data on our samples, we found that the proportion of sampled students who studied more than 4 hours and passed their final was 0.8583, and the proportion of sampled students who studied less than 4 hours and passed was 0.7125. This is a difference of 0.1458, and let's say that is somewhere like here on the distribution. It's obviously greater than our assumed difference of 0, so that gives us some evidence for our claim, but this could have also just happened by chance based on the students we sampled. To know for sure, we need to calculate the probability of getting the sample data we got. To do this, we first standardized our data from proportions of students into z-scores. As a reminder, the normal distribution is always centered at a z-score of 0, so it happens that our assumed difference of 0 gets converted to a z-score of 0. And then for the z-scores for our difference in sample proportions, we found that to be 2.53. Next, to find the p-value or probability of getting the z-statistic, we can find the area in the distribution from this value to the tail corresponding to our alternative hypothesis. Since we are trying to test whether the true difference in proportions is actually greater than 0, we would shade the area to the right of our test statistic. Now let's use our tables from class to calculate the probability of getting z is greater than 2.53. The table I'm using gives the area to the left of whatever z-score, so in order to get the area to the right, I can do 1 minus the value in the table since the entire area under the normal distribution is always 1. Looking a bit farther down in this table, we find the table value that is associated with our z of 2.53. To do that, we look in the row for 2.5 coming from the ones and tenths place of our z, and the 0.03 column coming from the hundredths decimal place of our z. This gives that the area to the left of a z of 2.53 is 0.9943. Therefore, the area to the right is 1 minus 0.9943, or 0.0057. This means that our p-value for this problem is 0.0057. If you were allowed, you could have also found this p-value from a calculator like this one from our website. I'll drop a link down in the description if you'd like to check it out. First, since we calculated our z-statistic and are looking for a p-value, I'll select the z-value to p-value button. Next, we need to select whether our test is left-tailed, right-tailed, or two-tailed. As we just discussed, our test would be a right-tailed because we are trying to see if the true difference in proportions is greater than 0. Next, we will enter our z-statistic of 2.53, and this then tells us that our p-value is about 0.0057 again. Now that we have our test statistic and p-value, we can compare these to our critical value or alpha value. As a reminder from my previous video, to make this comparison, you can either compare the test statistic to your critical value or p-value to your alpha value. Since we have our alpha value given in the problem and we just calculated our p-value, let's compare those two. It works out the same no matter which way you do it. Okay, to compare our p and alpha values, we just need to determine which one's bigger or smaller. With a p-value of 0.0057 and an alpha value of 0.05, the p-value is less than the alpha value. Okay, great. Now that our comparison is done, we can move on to our last step, conclude. If you recall, there are only two conclusions you can make for hypothesis testing problems. We can either reject the null hypothesis in favor of the alternative hypothesis, or we can fail to reject the null hypothesis. To know when to make each of these conclusions, I like to remember the saying, if p is low, reject HO. That means that if our p-value is low, aka lower than our alpha value, we should reject HO, the null hypothesis. If the p-value is greater than the alpha value, we would fail to reject the null hypothesis. For our example, the p-value of 0.0057 was less than our alpha value of 0.05, so we would reject our null hypothesis. To put this in context of the problem, we could say at a 5% significance level, we reject the null hypothesis and have sufficient evidence to support the claim that the true proportion of students who studied more than 4 hours and passed their final exam is significantly greater than the proportion of students who studied less than 4 hours and passed. Okay, so that's how you do two-sample z-tests for proportions. If any of those steps were confusing, don't worry. I'd encourage you to go back and watch each step or our previous videos to really internalize what we did for each of the 5 steps in our process. This will continue to be really important as we follow this 5-step process for every single type of hypothesis testing problem we do. First, we create our hypotheses, then check conditions, then calculate our test statistic or p-value, then compare those values to our critical or alpha value, and finally conclude based on our findings. In future videos, I'll cover many more examples of this and other hypothesis test types. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, please hit that subscribe button to support us making more videos for you. If you didn't, please leave us a comment down below to let us know what we can do better. Thanks again for watching, and remember, you have big dreams. Don't let a class get in the way.